So when setting up informational interviews, we generally start with a phone call. That way, if you call the person in advance, you have a scheduled appointment and you won't waste time, if the right person isn't there. So I'd like to give you some pointers on setting up those informational interviews. First of all, you want to get the right person on the phone because who you really want to connect with is the owner or the manager as opposed to the HR person. And it's actually easier to get to talk to the owner if you target smaller businesses. And that's one of the reasons that we suggest focusing on smaller, more artisanal businesses. Secondly, name drop if you can. So if you or somebody on the team actually knows the business owner or maybe has some connection to them, it's really helpful to kind of come in with a referral. Like you might say, oh, so-and-so mentioned, so-and-so said we should talk to you. Because if they hear that you're connected to a friend or a neighbor or a business associate or somebody, it's a lot easier for them to say yes. Really, it really warms up a cold call. So third, explain that you are seeking help and advice for somebody with similar interests. So you want to make sure here that they understand the person you're supporting has an interest or a vocational theme that's related to what they do, and that's why you're coming specifically to them. The fourth thing you want to do is let them know that it'll be short, that the time involved might be only 20 minutes or so, which seems like a reasonable amount of time to get through the informational interview, but without asking too much of the business owner, who's probably a busy person. And lastly, you want to end that phone call with scheduling a date. So it's helpful if ahead of time you look at your schedule and the prospective business owner's schedule and have an idea of kind of what your availability is, and maybe even propose some potential times. Like you might say, we can, would like to meet with you at your convenience. Would any time next week, like on later in the week in the afternoons, work? Or something like that, so you give them a little bit of time. So with that, I'm going to show you in a second a sample script. Okay, and here's the sample script. I might call and say something like this. Hello, my name is Janet Stevely, and I'm a career counselor with Agency Enterprise. Sean Stevens from the Small Business Development Center recommended I call you. I'm working with a young man named Pete who is very interested in the transportation field. I'm setting up some opportunities for Pete to talk with people in the field to learn about how they got started, as well as any advice they might have. Would it be possible to set up a time for Pete and I to come by and talk to you sometime next week? It would only take about 20 minutes. So with that, you might notice here that first I name dropped. I said that somebody from the Small Business Development Center who knows them had recommended that I call them. So that helps warm up the call. I also, made it clear that Pete is interested in the transportation field, which is the field that the person I'm calling was in. And I also let them know that it would only take about 20 minutes and leave that with, the opening about when we can schedule the call. So if they responded to this like, yeah, sure, we could do that sometime next week. And I might just say then, well, what are some good times for you? How about Tuesday afternoon or something like that, so that you're leaving that call with an official date on the calendar. And that way you're ready to go back to Pete and help him prep and let him know when the informational interview is going to be.